I want to talk a little bit today about lighthouse history. We got a beautiful lighthouse down here. The Bureau of Land Management manages the lighthouse and has done so since 1980. But the story goes back a long time prior to that. You know, why why were lighthouses built? Why were lighthouses built, folks? I ask that question every day, and the resounding answer is always the same. And as you might expect, it's the answer that's not exactly correct is the one that seems to be most obvious. Most folks say lighthouses were built to keep the ships off the rocks. Well, that's kind of true. But if you were a wise captain flying the waters of the Oregon coast in the 1800s at night, you wouldn't want to stay too close to the rocks anyway. Matter of fact, you'd probably anchor your ship and be done with the whole deal. Why were lighthouses built? I'll give you a hint. Lighthouses were operated by the U.S. Department of Treasury, and you know what else the U.S. Department of Treasury makes? Yeah, money. Lighthouses were built for money. Lighthouses were built to make this brand new Oregon territory financially successful, to help the pioneers who were coming over in thousands following dreams in the Oregon Trail to the Willamette Valley in hopes of a bright future. They needed to make money. They needed to sell their goods from the ranches and the farms in the valley. The ranches, mostly sheep ranches, wool being the commodity, and the farms, mostly wheat. Their markets were across the ocean in Asia. And to get that commodity, that agricultural produce, over to Asia, the way to do it in the 1800s was the ocean highway. Now, all the goods coming out of the Willamette Valley, or the vast majority of them during that time period, would go up the Willamette River, past Portland, out the Columbia, down south on the coast to San Francisco, repackaged and out to the world from there. But that ocean highway closed every night at sunset, and it didn't open to the next morning when the sun rose. So if you can imagine the ocean highway like Interstate 5, and every night Interstate 5 shuts down, that's going to have a big effect on the success of farms and businesses in the Willamette Valley. And in 1848, when Congress granted Oregon and California territories of the United States, Congress knew that they needed lighthouses to keep the ocean highway open 24/7. So in the Territorial Act, the U.S. government guaranteed to the new territory of Oregon, which in those days included a lot more than we call the state of Oregon, but it guaranteed the new state of Oregon, the new territory of Oregon, two lighthouses to be built at the mouths of each of its major rivers. One lighthouse at the Columbia River mouth, and the other at the Straits of Juan de Fuca. That would be the mouth to Puget Sound. Because all you folks up there in Washington, remember, you were once Oregonians, and so were the people in Idaho. So, you were once part of this little system right here. So to make those lighthouses and make the farmers successful in the Willamette Valley down here, they needed that lighthouse to get the goods to San Francisco for repackaging. Soon after, the state became the territory here became the Oregon Territory. In 48, Congress sent a survey crew out here. And that same year, 48, and by 1850, they finally arrived on the Oregon coast. And they laid out a whole system of lighthouses. And this is the way Interstate 5 on the ocean worked in those days. If you're a sea captain, right, and you're coming down the Willamette River and you're having all the wheat farmers are putting their wheat on your stern wheeler or your side wheeler, and you're going out the Columbia, you get out to the Columbia and you take a left and you go south, you're going to San Francisco. You come to the first lighthouse and you look ashore, and that lighthouse has got a unique blinking pattern. That tells you approximately where you are in the middle of the night. And you open up your little coastal pilot, a small booklet. You look at the coastal pilot and it says, oh, you're at, Tillamook Head, or you're at Yaquina Head, or whatever lighthouse you're at. Then in the next few paragraphs, it'll tell you to watch out for rocks here and rocks there. Pretty easy. So That's pretty much how the big interstate highway worked out there, the Interstate 5 of the 1800s. However, if you're a small town like Newport and you want to get some business in your port, what do? You don't have wheat fields and you don't have a lot of ranches. Well, what you need is an exit. I mean, think about Interstate 5. If you don't have an exit going to your town, you're going to get bypassed commercially. So the founding fathers of Newport, and more importantly, the founding fathers of Corvallis, they wanted an exit at Newport. So in addition to the big lighthouses like Yaquina Head, which have 9-foot tall lenses and guide commerce on the Interstate 5 outside there, Interstate 5 on the ocean, we needed little exit signs. So Newport and Corvallis lobbied very hard to get an exit sign out here in Yaquina Bay so that ships would know where to turn to come in Yaquina Bay for a yet to be built railroad that would link Yaquina Bay to Corvallis. So out there in the ocean, you have two types of lighthouses. You have the Interstate 5s, like Yaquina Head, 9-foot tall glass lenses. And you have smaller lighthouses like Yaquina Bay, also in Newport. A much smaller lens, but just enough to give you an exit sign at night so you can cross at high tide over the sandbar and into Yaquina Bay and hopefully put your goods on a railroad going into Corvallis or take wheat from a railroad coming out of Corvallis. That was the great plan. We are temporarily closed at Yaquina Head right now, and that's unfortunate, and we're real sorry. The Rangers and the Bureau of Land Management would love to bring people in there right now, and we welcome everybody back after the pandemic is over. We advance a little bit more when things are safer for them. Unlike other beaches on the Oregon coast, we get 2,000 visitors or more on a summer's day, and they get channeled onto these 2 observation decks to watch whales and birds. And it gets really tight out there, and we just can't social distance right now. Additionally, there's a small beach, a rocky cove down there. And again, it's without the opportunity to social distance, things get really crowded. So as soon as things get a little bit safer, we'd love to have people come back at Yaquina Head.